Hi everyone, Simon from Horoma Studio. In this video, I wanted to tackle a subject that everyone I think sort of thought about at some point, which is to consider what is the difference between a low or average quality rendering and a very high quality one. Interestingly, I think there are like a little misunderstanding about how we should differentiate them. In this video, I really want to focus more about the sort of like business environment, not the sort of like ego artistic aspect where like, what is the best image I can make? No, it's more like, what is the best image I can sell to a client? So let's have a look at that. I think there are three topics that need to be addressed when you want to understand or clarify the quality of an image. And also what is very important, I think, is that there's a hierarchy between those three that needs to be understood and that I think is actually gotten wrong by most of people. So those three categories that I want to talk about is the technical aspect, artistic aspect, and the intent aspect. One thing I want to clarify at the very beginning is this idea that actually the subject of your image is irrelevant to the overall quality of the image. What I mean by that is that whatever the subject you're depicting in your image, you can make an amazing image of it. Even if you're just making a picture of a shoe, of a doorknob, of whatever, you can make a composition that can be mind-blowing. And at the same time, you can have the best subject in the world, like making, I don't know, a photo of the opera house in Sydney or a photo of like a very beautiful girl, whatever, and you can make very shitty images. This is because the subject in an image and to understand the composition and make like something successful is completely irrelevant. So now on to the technical aspect. So the technical aspect is generally the aspect that everyone focuses on at the beginning, and also because this is generally the one you see the most. This is actually why you have thousands of videos on like technical aspect and how to render stuff and make them more realistic rather than simply making these images better. Realism has been the norm for quite some time and is generally understood as a sort of like benchmark for judging the quality of an image. The truth is, it is, as I said, like the technicality of an image and the sort of realism is just a subset of the quality of an image. So, of course, the overall quality will depend on like the assets you use, the sort of like number of polys, the quality of the samples, the lighting quality that you have, the fineness of the textures, etc., and the amount of these details that you can put into the model. One caveat, though, that is very important to have in mind is that literally about 50% of the amount of detail and work that you're going to put in making the image technically nice is not going to be perceived by your client, and it's not going to be perceived by 99% of the population. We as artists or whatever, but like as practitioners, let's say, a way more acute way of looking at images, and we see a lot of things that are not working that any other people would look at the image and be like, yeah, it's a fine image. So the reason for that is very simple to understand, is that in order to be able to tell if something is wrong in an image, you actually have to know kind of how to fix it. And if you don't have that understanding, then you won't see that there's issue in your image. This is why, for instance, if you show, like very early in my career, I was showing my images to some friends, etc., and they were saying very early in the process, oh, this looks like a photograph. And I was looking at it, I was like, this definitely doesn't look like a photograph. There's so many things wrong in this image. And they were not saying that to be nice, because some of them were like very like critical about my work, and it was definitely what I was looking for. But still, there are like many people that generally think they wouldn't see much difference between a photograph and a rendering. And this is also like, for instance, when you have people commenting on like Unreal YouTube videos and they're like, oh my God, this is just like life. And you're like, no, there's like so many details missing and so many things that look just awkward, yet that you have to be able to tell the difference between that. And so, as I said, the whole point behind that is that really there's a lot of the technical aspect. There's like a line. It's going to be different from client to client, but most clients won't tell the difference between a very highly technical, technically well-made image and a like average made image, because on the technical aspect, there's like a lot of things that we just don't perceive. And also, the thing is that the standard is already very kind of high, but still everyone is kind of at the same standard once you start working several years in the industry. The second aspect that is very important is the artistic aspect or artistic side. The artistic side, I'd say, is more regarding like the originality of your image, the sort of like unicity of the image, and how original your approach is to a certain subject. So basically this idea of like, does it create a long-lasting impression, or is it something that you've seen 100 times in your life? So this, of course, will be more biased and subject to each person's own experience. If you are, as I said, like there's a very high difference between the perception that an archviz artist is going to have and the perception that a lay person is going to have. As archviz artists, we watch and see images all the time, so we have like a lot of references that we can compare our images to. So it has the sad effect of making things look pretty boring all the time, because you're like, yeah, I've seen this image 1,000 times already. Whereas for other people that are less exposed to images all the time, they will actually find some images very original very quickly, even though you actually have many other references that look like these ones. So this is something very important. One thing also that needs to be understood regarding the artistic aspect is that this is a pretty interesting one when you want to differentiate from other people, because even though people have like clients basically have less references in terms of this aspect of like artistic aspect of archviz, basically, they will still be influenced by the style that you have. So for a client, I think it will clearly be more differentiating to have a specific style than to have like a way more higher technical resolved image past a certain point. Third category is intent. Intent is a central component of composition. I won't go into detail here on what it is, but basically the overall idea is that intent is what information you are trying to convey in your image and how well you do it. In a business environment, it basically means or defines your ability to translate the brief of your client into compelling images. This is by far the most important aspect of an image, especially for commission projects, because clients are not paying you to make cute images. They are actually paying you to make successful ones that basically translate with the highest fidelity the design intentions of the client. As you may already kind of perceive in what I said in the way I sort of like presented those three aspects, there's kind of a clear hierarchy between those three aspects and how you should sort of prioritize them, both when working on your own images and when advertising them. Intent, I think, should be your biggest asset, because it's your ability, as I said, to translate your client's design into compelling images. Good visuals will clearly translate architectural or urban design into images. In a business relationship, I can really guarantee you that clients are more after that type of thing than a properly technically resolved image. So really like this idea of like, once you look at the image, you understand what it's showing, and you have this sort of like extra layer of information. The artistic side, I think, is the second most differentiating one and second most important one aspect of an image, and its ability to treat the subject originally and artistically rather than on a purely technical aspect. This is important if you want to stand out from the crowd and if you have like a particular style. So in terms of quality, this will of course play a huge deal in order to make the image feel better. Last is basically the technical aspect, which for me is basically, it's not that it's not important, it's just that out of the three, it is the least important. And also because out of the three, it is the one that people have been focusing on for a while. And it means that it's the one that is resolved already. So basically having technically accurate image is kind of a given nowadays. And as I said, it doesn't matter in a business relationship past a certain point. And basically, as I said, since there's sort of a standard or nowadays that is pretty high, it means that you can't really differentiate yourself by making slightly better images technically, because the clients won't actually perceive that. So you need to play more on the artistic side or the intent side, which is, I think, something that will make an image quality much better. Of course, needless to say that in an ideal world, we should be or could be able to focus on the three aspects always at the same time. But generally we can't. And I think having this sort of like hierarchy clear in your mind will help in sort of like prioritizing focus on your journey to becoming a better artist. Also just on when you're working on a specific contract, because it's important to know what is the most important when you're working on an image. Should you tweak this little texture that nobody cares about, or should you double check the intent of your image? Should you change the texture of something that really doesn't matter, or should you try to find a composition and an artistic approach that is actually a little bit better and more original and that would serve better your client? These are rhetorical questions because I really hope you don't want to change the textures. So yeah, don't put all your effort into becoming just like technically good. You need to read about art, you need to read about like business relationships and how to understand your client, how to build your own style, etc. It's very important to have a much broader approach on what archviz is, basically. If you want to learn more about the fundamentals of composition and basically how to sell your ideas to clients a little bit more efficiently, you can have a look at my course. It's called Composition from the Ground Up, and the landing page is in the link. Right now the cohorts are closed because I'm reworking the course and making it like very much more compact and pretty efficient and dense still. Like a lot of new content is going to be in the new version. I'm hoping to release it early next year and start running cohorts again with the new workshop system that I have in mind that is going to be pretty kick-ass. So, yep, I hope this little breakdown of like the quality of an image, which is, as I said in the beginning, is like kind of very personal, but I think it's interesting and important to have this sort of like broader understanding of what are like the main three topics, I think, in the quality of an image and how they are perceived by your client. And they, as you can see, and that is I try to emphasize in this video, the perception that your client has of what a good image is going to be completely different than the perception that you might have of what a good image is. So if it helps you focus and sort of like clarify what you need to work on, then I'm very happy about that. So yeah, good luck in your journey, and I'll see you in the next video.